There is a pattern that I see even the most established, experienced experts telling themselves right now. And it sounds a little bit like this. I've been in business so long, I shouldn't have to do that. I shouldn't have to work this hard to sell at my programs. My audience should already know what I do. I shouldn't have to reach out to leads to move them into clarity and saying yes. I shouldn't have to spend so much time on social media. I shouldn't have to change this strategy up. This one has worked so well before. Look, it's easy to assume that this is about your standards, your boundaries, your workflow, your business model, or even having some self-respect. But I see something else going on. And what I see happening is that many experts are operating from an identity that was built for a version of this industry and maybe even their business that no longer exists. And when you don't evolve that identity with the evolution of the world around you, you unknowingly cap your next level of growth. You are listening to Amplify Your Success Podcast, episode 490. And today we're going to talk about one of the patterns, and maybe even you might consider it a lie, that we get stuck in as experts who are established in business that actually caps your earning. Are you ready for this? Let's get started. Welcome to the Amplify Your Success Podcast. Get ready to ramp up your revenue, amplify your impact, and make your mark in the world. This is the show for experts, thought leaders, and service professionals who want to shatter their limits and achieve that next level. You're going to find out from other experts and influencers how they made it. Now, let's get amplified. Hey there, inspired entrepreneurs and business leaders. It is your host, Melanie Benson, Authority Amplifier and founder of the Rising Tide Collective. And today I want to talk about something. It just literally, it just hit me so hard a few days ago. And I actually had an entirely different episode planned for today. But I've been kind of putting out this content about the big lies that we tell ourselves. And I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't even cover the biggest lie. So I'm going to be covering some of these lies, these patterns, these myths, if you will, that we get stuck in. And today we got to talk about the kind of this limitation that I shouldn't have to do that. What I realized, and I've had conversations with so many established business owners as my clients, as my peers, my intimate circle of friends are all in business really long time, some of them longer than me. And one of the interesting things that's emerged in our conversations over the last couple of years has been, well, like people should know what I do, right? Like I've put my blood, sweat, and tears into being visible, to marketing, to growing, to position and message my business. They should get it. And what I recognize is I've gone deeper, especially with my clients around this, is that oftentimes this really isn't from ego or even from a place of arrogance. It's truly identity loyalty. It's a outdated identity that we are holding on to for dear life because the idea that we have to shift this somehow, I mean, for some people, I think it kind of negates I work so hard already. I really have to do this again. I can't just coast now. Like I can't be in the maintenance mode. And I think what we're seeing as a society, as a collective right now is that many of us have built success doing things a certain way that became how it works, but it doesn't work where we're going next, whether it's a frequency mismatch, alignment issues, just the fact that the way people buy is changing. There's very, very deep energetic currents that are, I think, creating new pathways, new needs, new desires. And a lot of what used to work just is literally stalling out and not performing anymore. And it's not because anybody's doing anything wrong. It's literally because it cannot energetically exist with the reality that's being formed. And for many of us, like the reality that's unformed and in this messy zone of like, okay, we don't know what's happening, but we just know what's no longer working. And I think there's like grief that surfaces when we realize we have to let go of a version of us that we worked so hard to cultivate, that we invested thousands of hours, dollars, millions of dollars in some cases, building something that cannot exist in the new paradigm. So we have to recognize that when we get stuck in this self-talk of I shouldn't have to do that, and that could be anything that you're thinking, maybe it's showing up as like I don't want to do that, but and these are literally being pulled out of conversations I've had with entrepreneurs that have been in business 26, 30, 35, 40 years. And they're like, I shouldn't have to do that. I shouldn't have to dance on reels. I shouldn't have to, work this hard to fill my launches. I shouldn't have to dot, 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 fill in the blank, right? This is not about resistance. This is about protection. Now, maybe there is resistance there, and that's something to look at. But if you're protecting a business model, a framework, a strategy, or an identity that cannot exist where we're going next, then what are you on? A sinking ship. And that's why I wanted to talk about this today, because I'm involved in some things that are literally rewriting the direction we're going collectively. I'm involved in some associations where we're having to create a new narrative. We're creating a new protocol, if you will, for how we navigate uncertainty. And let's face it, most of us are in a lot of uncertainty right now. Even if you're focused and you're clear and you know what you're doing, I think we can all agree that there's enough going on collectively in the world that we don't have all the answers right now. We're just kind of picking a lane and going, okay, this is what we're doing. And that's because I truly believe in all of this unrest and change and transformation and energetic resettling, if you will, in the world. Our industry is rewriting a lot of the rules. I don't even think we even know what all the rules are, but what we do know, and I've talked about this on the podcast before, is that audience behavior has dramatically shifted. Trust cycles are different. Attention is different. It's not the loudest person in the room anymore. Or the most consistent or the most visible. It's the one that pulls you in because they make you feel something. And then that has to be followed up with trust and connection. Buying decisions are changing. People don't buy the same way. And I'm not even going to say how they buy now because, everybody's doing something differently. Everybody's having different experiences. But what I do know is it's different. We used to be able to, we laugh, we just like, yeah, I used to be able to print money, right? Like I would put an email out and people would just jump on and invest. And that's happening maybe 5% of the time. 5% of the industry is experiencing that. Maybe 10 if we're lucky. But what is happening is people are adapting, they're shifting. Authority is not coming from being noisier, from being more visible. It's coming from a place of specificity. Authority is now coming through proximity and resonance, not just credentials in a really cleverly written case study. No. And people aren't buying from funnels the way they used to. Automation isn't what's moving the needle the same way. They're not even buying from free events the way they used to. I was talking with a colleague of mine. She's like, yeah, I can't even get people to invest $1 to come to my event. Now I lucked out and I had, 400 plus people join my last free event. But why did they join? Because they weren't all showing up in the room, right? So behavior's changing. I think we have to look at the shift from what's worked before, what's worked up to now, or maybe even what's not worked, but you've heard that it should work. And this idea that we are outgrowing a lot of the old paradigm marketing at a record pace. Whether or not you can name it, or your clients can name it, or your audience can name it, they're feeling it. They're experiencing it in real time. So if you think you don't have the time or you can't prioritize things like nurturing your audience or refining your message and your positioning or really showing up and having conversations that move into sales, then you're looking at this all wrong. Because these aren't like beginner tactics or things that people do when they're struggling. No, these are the evergreen growth levers that are needing to be moved right now to see consistent results. I'm reminded of this mindset, this principle, if you will, that a coach of mine told me many, many years ago, and you've probably heard of this. I've done an episode on this in the past, is there is a gap for many people between what they're interested in and what they're committed to. And what happens is when your identity is outdated, you stay committed to what is convenient. So in the metaphor, when you're committed to something, you're all in. You're going to move whatever lever you need to get to the outcome. When you're interested in something, you do what's convenient. You do what's comfortable. You do just enough to give yourself the illusion that you're moving towards the goal. But really, what happens is you get stuck in a pattern. And so, one of the things I want you to ask yourself is, what are you really committed to right now? Are you actually committed to an outcome? Whether that's a outcome you know how to get to or you don't know how to get to, are you committed to it? Because if you're committed to it, the identity of I'm only going to do what's worked before, the identity of I don't do those things in my business. That's not the model that I'm willing to do. That has to dissolve to make space because that's actually what's convenient for you. It's what you've known up to now. It's the paradigm you built your business on. Great. But it's not the paradigm that's going to allow you to sustain it. It's not the paradigm that's going to allow you to serve your clients going to this next evolution that we're in. And it's certainly not the paradigm that's going to allow you to be the authority in a very noisy and somewhat overwhelming online space, right? So when we are attached to the way we used to do it and the identity is outdated or the model's outdated, you will notice that what is new and different feels scary. And you will question whether or not you should do it. You will rely on, can I guarantee it will work? Okay, so commitment says, I'm all in. I'm going to figure this out. And I know I'm going to have to test some things. I'm going to have to work inside a lot of uncertainty. And I'm going to have to stretch and take some risks. That's commitment because I will not let anything get in the way of this outcome. Now, what that outcome is up to you. What it feels like to be in that outcome is up to you. And everybody's wired differently. For some people, the only way you are willing to get to a outcome is through the feeling of convenience. And you might also notice that it moves very slow there. Okay, for most people, it's going to move very slow. So ask yourself, am I in a state of commitment or a state of convenience? Great results, great outcomes, great shifts and transformations rarely come from a place of convenience. I'm not here to press your buttons and get into a discourse about whether you should be committed or convenient. I'm just simply wanting you to reflect on, are you committed to the outcome enough that you're willing to recognize you're holding on to an identity that's keeping you stuck? And by the way, I've had to look at this a lot in my own business over the last year. When you are attached to the old identity, the old model, the old strategies, you're going to resist everything. When you're committed to the outcome, you're willing to adapt, evolve, shift, learn what's working now, release what's causing you to feel stuck. Because it's quietly costing you to hold on to that old paradigm. And oh my gosh, if I could just tell you, if I could hold on to what worked before, I would be so grateful. But it not only does it not work anymore, it doesn't even exist. It cannot exist in the reality that's emerging for many of us. And the woman who ran that business probably 16 years ago, yeah, she doesn't exist either. So now this is about creating the identity, the paradigm, and the strategy that allows you to attain that outcome, to make that impact, to generate that level of revenue, whatever it is, where we're going next. Because it's quietly costing you to hold on to the old identity. It's costing you your sales. You're probably on an up and down roller coaster, which, by the way, this is probably a sign that you're maybe attached to an old version of yourself. You probably have lower conversion, despite the fact that you've grown and evolved and you have even more expertise to be offering. You're probably feeling like it should be working, but it's not. Maybe there is a lot of energetic friction because you're having to contort yourself and hustle harder, and it's causing you to feel frustrated and confused instead of leaning into what is working next. So this isn't about efforting more. This is about matching your frequency and your alignment and your identity with what's emerging right now. And for some people, you have to tell yourself the truth that the person you've become doesn't even want the same clients, doesn't want the same business model, isn't willing to put that level of efforting in anymore. And you are ready for something new. But you got to be willing to let go of what's clogging up the clarity in the pipeline to get there. So here's some identity upgrades that are probably on the table. If you've been in this place of like, look, I've already proven myself. I shouldn't have to do this. I shouldn't have to pitch myself. I shouldn't have to. Oh, by the way, this came a few years ago. I had a agent reach out to me with a really, really big name expert to come on my show. And he was like, yeah, this guest is way too big. They shouldn't have to fill out the application. And I go, okay, then they're not coming on the show. Right? It's like, if you've proven yourself, great. Are you willing to evolve how you create your results, how you connect, how you show up, how you message and position what you do? Okay, so that might be the identity shift. If you've been stuck in like, this shouldn't be necessary, I shouldn't have to do this, the new inquiry is, what actually works right now? And how do I shift or release or embrace what is working now in a way that is congruent with myself, that is aligned with who I am? And truly ask yourself, what are you committed to right now? Are you all in on that? Because this next level that's emerging, it's going to require a lot of identity shifts for many of us. And it's not just a tactic. This is like an evolution that's occurring. So evolution, evolving, letting that identity, take a couple pivots. This is what is happening for pretty much everybody I know right now. And so that might look like tightening and modernizing, optimizing your message and positioning for the clients, for the deeper work, for the transformation that maybe's just been out there a little bit. It's about being willing to have conversations versus just relying on automation. It's about getting in the right rooms. This is a huge thing I've seen like in a lot of places where people are like, yeah, I'm not in the right rooms, or I'm not in any room and I need to start being in rooms. I'm done with the solo efforting, trying to make all these decisions on my own. I need to be in the right rooms. And truly building audiences where the culture of that community or that platform matches who your clients are and their buying practices. One of the cultures, one of the, I guess, platforms, if you will, that I'm super hot about right now is Substack. I am literally watching Substack become a community and a culture that matches everything: vulnerability, intimacy, connection. It's like it's an entire ecosystem. It's so exciting. We're even having it as a focus conversation and a training inside Rising Tide Collective, which, by the way, that's a very powerful room if you're collaboration focused. Rising Tide Collective is a room that you might need to be in right now. So Substack, getting in the right communities and having conversations and really focusing on the message that you cannot afford to filter anymore. So if this is speaking to you, I would love to hear from you. As a matter of fact, I'd love to hear from you on Substack. If you are curious about Substack or you are actually active on Substack, let's make sure we're connected there. This is going to get a lot of my attention and focus going forward. And if you're ready to shift from interested to truly committed to your next level, then it's time to get in a room where strategy, visibility, and authority are actually evolving with the market. And that's Rising Tide Collective. That is a place where I think what's beautiful about Substack and what's beautiful about community, it's like merging together. Because I don't know about you, but I really feel like the right community lifts you up. It gives you energy, it gives you clarity, and it makes you feel undefeatable, right? It makes you feel unignorable. And that's what's happening in Rising Tide Collective. So that might be the community to explore right now. But regardless of where you are, get into community. Get into community with people that you feel expansive around. All right, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this pattern, what you're seeing, if this spoke to you. I'll be covering some more of these patterns and these internal lies that we are telling ourselves over the next few episodes. Thanks for tuning in today, Amplifier. We're going to keep this conversation going, and I want to hear from you how you're going to amplify your authority and make a greater impact. Before you go, please take a minute to give our show and our guests some love over on your favorite podcasting platform. Subscribe, rate, and review. Leave your full name, and I'll spotlight you and your authority on social media.